what I'm going to show you how to make today. We're going to be talking about how to make a lo-fi house. I got a bunch of new techniques I've never shown you guys before. Yeah, to go along with this video, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, the entire template. All of that is available right at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. You don't want to miss out. It's just $5. And this is a really awesome lo-fi house template. In my opinion, the best on the market. Link is at the top of the description. Don't miss out. This can take your tracks to the next level. Today, guys, if you've been struggling, this is what you need. Again, link at the top of the description. Thank you so much for the support. It really helps keep me going. And let's dive in. Alright, we're at 124 BPM. First thing we have here is the kick. So, what's happening with this kick? It's a bit of a new kick technique. You might notice there's actually no processing on this, but it obviously sounds like a very crunchy type of kick. So, what this kick is, well, first I'll talk to you about the pattern, right? You can see, so we're doing just a standard doom, 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 right? Quarter notes, but you'll notice the 2 and the 4 are pushed up a little bit. If I zoom in, so you're not just getting don, 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 don on the grid, it's like don, 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 like you get that kind of, like it's pushing and pulling you. And then the other thing here are these little fills. Doing that don't, and then over here. Don't. And that's really just, you can see, just having this MIDI clip, which is just the straight quarter note kicks, and then throwing in just a little extra one, you know, in different places, and not doing it too often. It happens once every 4 bars, right? And you can even do once every 8 bars or once every 16 bars, but just not having that be like so frequent. Now, for the actual kick, the way that I made this kick, so, if you guys know the TR9, the drum machine Roland made a few years ago, this is a kick that I made in there, actually. So I had one of these, which I borrowed from my friend. Shout out to Bot if you're watching this, dude. What's up? But yeah, I borrowed his TR9. And then what I did is I put it through this Yamaha mixer that I have. I forget what it is. I used it in a few videos, though, so you guys have seen it. And basically what I did is I did that like classic kick technique where you take a kick straight out of the 909 drum machine and then just put it through the mixer. And it's turning up the gain on the mixer, like the input gain, but then turning down the output gain. So what you get is this like almost distorted kick. And I'll actually play you the original sample. Right, so it actually is a bit distorted, but the beauty of this is it retains the punch and the low end. Right, so you get this massive fat kick. And then I just recorded that into Ableton. And then what I did here to kind of tweak it a little bit is we're actually using the low pass filter. And what we're doing is you can see the filter's down there, and then we have an envelope on it. And the reason for this is because the original kick, it has a lot of mid-range, and you want this to be a little bit deeper, but still having that really big mid-rangey punch at the start. So that's what this envelope does. It allows you to start with the filter all the way open, and then it just quickly drops down. So you don't get all that crunch in the tail, but you still get the crunchy start, and you still get the fat low end. Because the other thing about this mixer technique where you like kind of, you know, crunch your 909 kick, it's not just about getting the mid-range. It's because it also boosts that low end up that much more and just makes it fatter. And also, a lot of times on the input, when I'm doing these, I'll actually turn up the bass on the mixer too. So we got that. Then we have the bass line. So the bass line's following the chords. Yeah, so we're in, so this will be like a D major chord, C sharp minor, F sharp minor, and then a C sharp minor, and this A major down here. So we're just following the chord progression. We can see it's just a simple groove. It's actually not too bouncy, right? Like, there's only a few 16th notes in here. But you can hear it all grooves really well. You want this bass line and your kick, really, that's actually where the groove is happening. Like when I solo these, it makes you bob your head just as much as when you have everything. And that's really the secret, right? It's not just having the cool lo-fi chords or the 303 or something, but it's actually like this sitting underneath all of that and just always working really well. For the sound on this one, it's made with operator. So the way I made this is it's a square 4 wave with a bit of FM from a sine wave, right? So this is what that sounds like. And then I just have a low pass on that to cut out the highs, but still keep that fat low end. And even though it sounds like a sine wave now, you might be saying, well, why didn't you just use a sine wave? Well, essentially because this is just a bit fatter in the low end. And then I just have this auto pan to make it sound like it's being sidechained to the kick. That's really it for the bass. Then we have the chords. So, it's 3 chords. D major 7, C sharp minor 7, and then this A major 9. Excuse me, I believe it's a... Oh yeah, it's just an A major 7. We have another major 3rd up here. And that's a very simple chord progression. But what really makes it are the extra voices. The fact that, like, this isn't just a major, like a D major, but it's a D major 7. So you get that extra vibe and kind of, like, jazzy flavor to the chords. And also it's the rhythm, right? It's having this little pause here, and then having this and throw in the little melody notes in at the end. So I recommend start with, like, 2 or 3 chords, and then that's where you can go and get creative. Like, I had these chords, and then I chose to do the, like, having that hit on the 2, or having this, like, that little rhythm there. Figure out the chords first, and then you'll be able to find those little patterns in them. Now, for the sound, this is this old school Rhodes sound. It's actually from the Ableton piano and keys over here. You can see it's like electric, where, yeah, it's kind of just like a Rhodes sound, you know, something that you would use just a preset for. We've got a bit of chorus, bit of reverb, some drum bus, which helps give it the lo-fi thing. But obviously, like, it's not really too much processing. Like, you guys probably think there's some magical lo-fi house processing rack, and there is a little bit. Like, you can use Smecco's Tape Station, but honestly, it really comes more from the source sound. Like, this has drum bus on it, and it has, like, chorus and stuff, but it's really that original sound kind of lends itself to the lo-fi thing. So, yeah, that is being sidechained to the kick, high pass filter, and then we have this 303. You can hear, this is playing like little melody notes. It's meant to just pop in and out. You know, it's not the kind of melody that's going to keep going and going and going the whole track through. But just having these like little things pop in and out, you can hear it just creates a perfect musical embellishment, because this way you can still hear that main groove. Right? Nothing's really getting in the way of it, but you can have a melody that pops in and out without taking up too much space. And we're in the key of D major here, and it's really just using these very particular, like, jazzy kind of voices. For example, here, we're back. So that sounds, those are actually like fifths of each other technically. But then if you look at it on the D major scale, it's the major 3rd and the major 7th. So it's like hearing that against a D major chord. That top note has a lot of meaning in that context, because you can hear it gives you that, like, you can see we did it over here too, ending on that same note. Just an octave down, or yeah, an octave down. So you can see you get, like, it's not that complicated. It's really just how this interacts with the other stuff. Now for the sound, it's made with operator. So it's a square wave and a saw wave, but there's no FM happening. They're just playing side by side. We have a low pass filter, which has a bunch of automation just constantly moving it. but it also has an envelope on it, so you get that like pluck. And then you can see we have the soft shaper here, plus the OSR filter settings. So we're using the filter drive plus the shaper drive. So you're getting a really like, that's all coming together, plus the envelope, plus the resonance to create this 303 sound. Then we have a bit of filter delay and some reverb, high pass filter, drum bus, which is going pretty hard. That's really like where you can see it's doing the lo-fi sound. High pass again after the drum bus. So we have one going into the drum bus and one after, simply because if you just turn this one off going into the drum bus, there will be a bunch of like low end and stuff that comes through the delay and reverb that you really don't want. So we're just cutting that so it's like a lot more headroom going into the saturation. Then we're high passing it, then a sidechain, and then probably not necessary, but another high pass at the end. Then we have this pad. You can hear this is just two different chords. So this is like this D major chord going up to an F sharp minor. So actually pretty simple, but again, it's another one of those ones that plays off of the main progression. And you can really hear how well those two work together. And if we look at this, it's not really so much just like a straightforward like D major chord. Like for example here, so we have D major, but then we have another D, and then we have a major ninth, which is really just a ninth, and then we have another major third up here. So it's like you're getting that little like kind of uneasy triad plus the chord down there, and then you're getting that over this other stuff, and it's all like playing together. And you can see how this all works now. So, and this is also why it's not always just about like, oh, like what's the magical lo-fi processing rack? Like a lot more of what you're hearing in lo-fi house is musical than you think. It's not all just like texture and saturation, right? But anyway, so now for the sound on here, it's made with Operator. It's an FM pad. You can see we got a sine wave and then 3 more sine waves. Just at different octaves, creating that kind of like uneasy metallic sound. And that goes well against the really smooth, organic Rhodes sound, right? It's that contrast. So then we have no filter, but then you can see this LFO, it's on the volume of oscillator B. So we're getting some movement with that. So it's not just like static. We have a low pass filter with a little bit of automation, just opening that up, plus an LFO. We got a bit of chorus, a bit of reverb, my ultimate stereo widening rack, which there's a video on that if you're wondering what that's doing. I've got some drum bus to make it a bit crunchier, high pass, and then a sidechain. And then the last synth we have here is this little stab. So I'll play this with the chords so you can hear it. So the idea with this is it's like a little chord that's kind of a melody. And what I mean by this is you can see, so these are chords, right? It's multiple notes playing at once, but they're not really like chords. Like, for example, here, it's C sharp, F sharp, and another C sharp. We're in the key of D major. Technically, that's a weird chord because it's the major 7th, the major 3rd, and then another major 7th. But it's not just about this on its own. It's the juxtaposition of that against the other stuff, just like with the 303. So what you're doing is you're using the notes and the chords not to like create what would be like a perfect musical chord, but more so something that's at once rhythmic and harmonic that can kind of bounce off of the main chords. Right? So it's also that rhythm too, and just listening to it and seeing what's going to work really well with what you have. This is one of those things that you kind of want to add it once you already have everything. Now, for the sound, this is also made with Operator. So again, just one of these like digital FM type of sounds. You can see we got 2 sine waves. First one's got a fast envelope on it, so it's nice and like sharp. And then they're at different octaves, so that's what really creates that sound. Filters isn't doing anything. Then we really just have some chorus, reverb, and a bit of drum bus. This one's a lot more about the notes you play than like specific processing. Then we have this atmosphere noise, which is really just like a bit of kind of crackle in the background. That's one of those things you don't really notice it, but then if I solo it and then play the whole track, you're gonna be like, oh, I see where that fits in there. So we got that. Then we have the drums, which are like pretty straightforward, right? Like everybody wants to know how to do the lo-fi house drums, but if you think about it, it's just regular house drums with a little bit of a different flip on it, right? Like we have, you know, a main hi-hat, just two layers, same as usual, like a 909, and then a punchier hi-hat. You know, we have some background hi-hats. Right? Like a shaker loop. And then these two together. We have a clap, which is probably the most complicated one. You can see it's this Lindrum clap, but then I've got it going through a very fast echo. And actually a bit of compression with a very fast, or a very long attack, so it doesn't mess up the punch of the clap. And that's just kind of bringing that out and making it a bit more textured. You're having that little at the end. But really with this one, again, it's pretty straightforward with the drums here. It's not that many layers. But really it's that group processing, you know. It might seem obvious, but this was a big revelation for me in the back in the day as well. It's like, if you put all your drums into a drum bus like this, if you're trying to make lo-fi house where it's supposed to sound like it's all going through the same like tape player or VHS or something like that, just put all your drums into one saturator and really try to like crunch them together. That's what makes the sound, is the fact that these all sound like they're coming from the same place. And really that's not from samples, right? You can get the samples from anywhere. It's from taking the samples and then processing them all together so that they all become one thing. And also doing little things like, for example, you know, the little bit of reverb on everything at once makes them all feel like they're in the same space. So that can already take these like disparate samples and make them feel like they go together. But then also the drum bus, like you're having the compression, having the damp down to there so that they all get like a pretty sharp high end cut. That's also going to help too, because if they're all missing highs in the same range, one, it's going to feel more lo-fi, but also that's going to make them all feel like they're from the same place. So that's really what you're going for. Get these different sounds, you know, get ones that fit the same vibe. Obviously, don't use like trap drums and then EDM drums or something like that. You know, get some classic 909 and 808 sounds, but really just processing them together. Like, it's not as complicated as you would really think. Then the last thing we have is the vocal. So this is just these two different vocal samples with some reverb, drum bus, high pass, and this being sidechain, you know. Pretty simple sort of lo-fi stuff. It's just meant to not get in the way too much, right? Like, it just fits in there well without being, like, taking the space away from other stuff. And yeah, so that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets. Every single thing from this video is available right at the top of the description on my website. Don't miss out. If you guys have been struggling with lo-fi house, or you just need some new inspiration to make the best track you've ever made, grab this. I'm telling you guys, it's the best lo-fi template on the market. This will take your tracks to the next level today. Dude, honestly, like, back when I was first hearing mall grab and all that kind of stuff, I wish this stuff existed. So, link is at the top of the description. Thank you so much for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.